Welcome to Troy and Abed in the morning. How are you?
Troy and Abed in the morning.
Morning nights. Hey, what's up? This is from Community, by the way. This is not Troy and Abed in the morning, as awesome as that would be. This is the Game Theory Podcast. Hello, David. How has your weekend been?
So good. I finished Assassin's Creed Syndicate, so I have once again furthered the plot between Templars and Assassins, and there's some aliens involved and precursors. I got confused at the end, but it's fine.
Don't think I understand it. Sounds like they're going off the rails a little bit.
Yeah, but it was most of it. They kept it in Victorian England, so I didn't have to be running around in offices for half the game. Hey, Greendale, Colorado. Oh, that's just the Colorado Cup.
Just Colorado Cup. Yeah. Got it into my fandom. That's cool. I went.
Camping trip.
I did a 8-mile race, and then we went straight camping after that. And it was okay. It was one of those that like, you get there, you set up your stuff, and you're like, all right, we got just enough time to do nothing. And then we cooked some food, and it was delicious. We hung around for a while, but there's a burn ban, so no fire. So we just sat slowly slowly chilling ourselves to death until we decided, I think it's time to crawl inside of a sleeping bag. So we did. We went
Burn
to bed.
ban in Mississippi?
Yeah, isn't that weird? We haven't had rain in like 2 months or something like that.
Well, that sounds terrible. I'm glad I missed it.
Don't worry, it's plenty humid though. So all the
Nice.
advantages of that.
That's super fun. I'm playing Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky now because Kotaku won't shut up about what a great RPG it is.
Is he good?
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's I'm still in the prologue, but I'm having a good time with it. The combat system's turn-based, but also uses movement and like positioning, so it's a little bit Final Fantasy Tactics-esque, which is fun.
Yeah, don't say those words. I will purchase it. Have you heard of that Tales of Zestiria or something like that? People say that looks good on Steam.
No.
No, okay.
Well, I did just pick up for $5. There's this game called Oxenfree, which is like kind of like if Telltale Games did Stranger Things. So it's very 80s like horror vibe, but with like that Telltale Games kind of dialogue system.
Yeah.
So it came as a recommendation from a coworker, so I'll check that out later and tell you if it's any good.
It sounds good. I bought Five Nights at Freddy's sister location.
Oh yeah? Did you play the first one?
Yeah, I mean, I did. So here's the story on that. These fucking kids are still obsessed with this. My son had a birthday party. It was not a birthday party. No, it's a lie. A Harry Potter party because he finished reading the first one. So we promised it to him. And all his little friends come over and they're all playing. And they keep talking about this Five Nights at Freddy thing. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I played the first one and I thought it was completely underwhelming. I'll play one of the newer ones because, to be fair, a lot of games get a lot better. And it's the same fucking thing. It's different. They added in more stuff and there's some humor involved, which is nice. But other than that, I don't really get it. Like the jump scares, first of all, I'm a little bitch, so there's that. So whenever they do the jump scares, I'm always like, so I start playing it at this party, because I've already seen Harry Potter 1. They got it going. They're eating their little Hufflepuff popcorn, all that stuff that my wife made, this, whole theme thing. And, they got their little wands, and they're being adorable. And I had about an hour of that, and I'm like, all right, I'm good. So then I walked back to my room, and I was like, I'm going to try out this Five Nights at Freddy thing. It's like $6. All right. So I bought it, and I was... I put it on and turn on and start playing. And next thing I know, it's all quiet in there. All they hear me is go, ah! Like, so my son comes running back. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm good. I'm good. And then he's like, what's that sound? That sounds like Five Nights at Freddy, because they hear the music. And I'm like, what? And how would you hear that? And then some other kid's like, yeah, I can hear it through the door. It's Five Nights at Freddy. And so the parents are like, what the hell? He's back there playing Five Nights at Freddy, the kid's video game? And I'm like, it's not kid's video game. And yes, that's why I yelled. But anyway, that's the funny story of that. I can't help but yell whenever they pop up and do their thing. It's so unexpected. Like, just like a good horror movie.
It's not unexpected. It's literally the whole game. It's like animatronics popping out.
Hey, I'm trying to explain it. No, it's like a good horror movie will have like a quiet scene right before a big sound thing, right? Like breaking through a window and the bad guy jumps in. Like Jason jumps in with his hatchet or machete, but instead of jumping in to an empty room, he jumps through a window because that's a big loud crescendo of a noise, and it helps amp up your nervous system. So that's what happens here. There's this part where you have to there's like a dancing one, like a ballerina, and it's got this soft music. I mean, super soft, because when I heard his music, I didn't hear it, so it scared me the first time, and I was like, oh, super soft. So I turned it way up, as you do. And then I'm creeping, you're like crawling along the floor trying to get, to this part to turn the power on, and you have to get past her. And as I'm doing that, you have to listen to the music. So I'm putting my ear way up close to the speaker, and because it's so faint, it's like that, and not even that. That's even too loud. So you're just like, oh my god, I have to. And that means she's near and she's about to kill you. And so you're sitting there, you're right up next to it, and all of a sudden, it just pops up and does the scary face thing, and you're like, sweet Jesus! And you just screaming profanities at a kid's thing. Eventually, I stopped playing after the third one. I was like, yeah, this is going to get me in trouble. But I don't know. It's still, I don't get the hype. At least he's having fun with it now, though. He's making jokes about it and being silly.
The seniors last year in the lounge, there's a computer, and they would install Five Nights at Freddy's on it and just play it when no one was around.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what's this? Like, oh, it's Five Nights at Freddy's. It's so scary. And that was my exposure to it. It didn't seem that scary, but maybe I wasn't playing it.
It's like horror movies. There's two kinds of scared. There's jump scares and then just generally horror-ish or frightening or disturbing, right?
Dread.
Yeah, and Five Nights at Freddy's a fucking joke when it comes to just dread or scary, like creepy. Like, there could be a premise that's creepy, but then there could be jump scares. Like in Cabin in the Woods by Joss Whedon, there's parts of it that's spooky. The setting is strange. It's this cabin, and then it's got this wall between it, and so you're like, what the hell's going on? But then there's some jump scares, too. Jump scares are considered cheap, cheap thrills. It's like something you do, and the audience enjoys a couple of those because it's like, oh, you got me. But after that, it's almost like your mom jokes. It's like, it's not really funny, and you're still pushing it.
Or people who are still making That's What She Said jokes 10 years after The Office.
Right, or like when a comedian writes in too many fart jokes into his thing, you're like, that's kind of,
Yeah, you want to get that sweet spot on fart jokes. You don't want too many.
Yeah, right in the middle.
7 to 10 at most.
You want it short and silent but deadly.
Right.
No, so the thing that this game does not do is the scary part. It's only the jump scares. So I just don't get it. I don't get because I'm not afraid of animatronics. I'm not afraid of this clown thing that's going around. If a clown jumped at me in a parking lot, I'd elbow his face in a few times, and then I'd take his mask off. And
that's big. That's big talk for a guy who's on a clown in the room right now.
Or is that one behind you? No. There's incidentally, I tried to scare. There's a Twitch streamer. You're familiar with Twitch?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, there's a guy who was playing Hearthstone, just a card game. You're familiar with that too, right?
Yes. And
he fell asleep at his computer. I understand. I've done that before with Hearthstone. Here's the trick. It's got this soft lullaby music. It's like, and you're kind of like waiting. And then sometimes the guy goes AFK, and it gives him like 60 seconds to play a card, and you're like, come on. And then like they play their card, or it just goes, they don't get to play their card. And you're like, all right. So then you play yours. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. Eventually, you're like, pretty soon you're like, Jesus. And you might pass out on your computer. I've done that before, like twice. And so this guy did this, the streamer. And so I was like, I got the chat room's like, oh my gosh, lol. And so all these people started coming in from other channels because people are like, oh my God, look, this guy fell asleep on stream. What if he does something funny? We got to see what happens when he wakes up. Does he try to play it off? Does he wake up and just go, oh, just keep playing cards, no big deal? And like pretend like he doesn't know his audience knows he fell asleep? Or does he like, just shut it off? Who knows? So what I was saying was, I was like, surely he's going to check the chat. Like, you've got, if I woke up and I was streaming and I fell asleep during a video game, I'd be like, oh shit, hopefully no one's in my chat and no one saw that. And so I was like, guys, as soon as he gets back, I convinced this whole room. It took some time. I convinced them finally to everybody start saying, holy shit, he's in the room behind you. Oh my God, watch out. So he finally wakes up and it just spams up like crazy. Like, holy shit, he's behind you. Turn. And they were like, he's in the house. He's in the house. But he just turned off his stream. So that was just totally...
Man, that's a lot of build up to that story, and it didn't end where I was hoping it would.
I mean, if I was like, one of these comedians, I would just tell you that it was some funny ending because they're all lying anyway. But there wasn't, and I feel like that was a missed opportunity.
It was. So. It could have been a really worthwhile story.
Could have been really worth someone's time, but instead.
So we're talking about games we played recently, and I thought it'd be fun to do an episode where we put our money where our mouth is, and maybe brainstorm some games that would be the kind of games we would want to see. Games that either haven't been made yet or have been made poorly and should be made.
Wait, you mean because after we criticize games so much that it's might become sort of one of these situations where we're only good at critiquing silly stuff and not actually making a win condition? Is that what you mean? Almost like there's no way to win?
Well, I wouldn't want to go that far because we're famously critical when people do that. Yeah. But also what most people probably don't know about us is that when we were young, idealistic teenagers, we wanted to start a gaming studio.
Oh, yes.
called Swashbuckler Studios, after our swashbuckling, I don't know, maybe our first game would have had swashbuckling. Who knows? But that was the name of it. That's about as far as it went. I went into computer animation, you went into marketing, and then we both discovered we're not very good / hate those career paths.
Doesn't matter. Dan Harmon's studio is called Starburns. You don't get to question us. Swashbuckler Studios. It sounds cool. It's got alliteration. Get off our backs.
True.
J.J. Abrams is bad robot. Just stop. We got to do swashbucklers. But, yeah. So designing perfect games. That's difficult. Wait, first, do you have an example of a perfect game, or the closest to perfect game that you have?
No, but I do have various things I like in games. So I was thinking in my game, I'm just going to combine a lot of elements into that and see if I can make a game that would be fun to play.
Yeah, that's how I started cooking. It was disgusting. It was like this cereal pizza chocolate thing. Good.
Nice.
No, yeah, something that hopefully meshes well together. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm all about it. So,
all right, so you want me to start, or do you want to start with yours?
I guess you can start, so you have the idea of the topic.
All
Hit me up.
So, this game is called Jeanne d'Arc, and it's based off of Joan of Arc.
No one's going to be able to tell that from the title, David.
So Joan of Arc, the Maid of Orleans, maybe that'd be the subtitle. Born in 15th century France, and for those of you not familiar with her story, she ends up just kind of saving the country from the British. And the interesting thing is, she was just a shepherdess, a teenage girl, no big family, no big name, just shows up, gets these visions, and goes off on a quest.
Wait, David, we forgot to announce that we were on another podcast.
Oh, yeah.
We were a guest on another podcast called Press Start, their first episode. Anyway, you can go check that out. I don't know where to see it besides YouTube.
I don't think it's up yet. So as soon as he
YouTube
releases that on the pod, yeah, the feed is. But as far as the podcast, I don't think he's released it yet.
Okay. Anyway, continue. So she's saving Orleans.
She's saving France, in fact.
France in general. All right.
So she gets a lot of visions. A lot of historians think she might have been, been having seizures or been epileptic or having some kind of, there's a lot of things that can make you feel like you're having visions. But she heard voices talking to her, telling her that she had to go save France. And so that's what she did. And it's kind of an amazing, true story that would make a great video game, I think.
All right. So the plot is there, historical, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where do you start? Her birth? You come out of the birth canal, press A?
No, I'm thinking you start there might be a little prologue to the game where you're just. So here's the thing. I was thinking of what I like to play in games, and I was seeing opportunities for everything in this setting. So the first, let's say 30 minutes to maybe an hour of the game, you're just a shepherdess, and it's basically playing through a season of Harvest Moon. So you're planting crops, you're shearing sheep, you're doing all that stuff. Yeah, so that's just the beginning. But you can refuse the call to adventure and just play Harvest Moon the whole game. And France eventually gets conquered by the British, but that doesn't affect your farm.
Your potatoes are dope as shit.
Your potatoes are dope. So that's the beginning. Then you get this vision. Oh, and the whole game's in French with subtitles because fuck you. I think that'd be fun.
Okay. You mean it's in freedom, like French fries? It's freedom fries.
Freedom language. So then you go off on your adventure, and the next part of it is this court intrigue thing because you have to convince the Dauphin Charles to believe that you are worth giving a command position to. So it becomes more of a social. Almost a text, not a text, but an adventure RPG where you're just talking to people, choosing the right dialogue options, sort of a maybe Telltale kind of dialogue series there. And it culminates with the famous scene where she walks in the chapel to meet the king. She's finally got enough word of mouth going around that they let her do that. But to test her, they put the real king out in the audience, and they put a fake king up on the throne. And so there'll be some kind of you have to pay attention to your surroundings. You have to look for details. Maybe you learn that the king has a mole or something or whatever. You have to figure out who the real king is, talk to him. He gets impressed, gives you a command position. Now the game becomes medieval Total War. So it becomes very much a strategic, but you're on the battlefield, you're a commander, but you're still Joan of Arc. It's not like Total War where you're just an eagle flying around scrawl, commands. You
keep saying Total War. I think you mean medieval ogre battle, right? That's much greater combat experience.
Yeah, sure. Whatever combat experience you want. But what I'm thinking is you're on a hill. If you want to give commands, you have to send a runner down there, and there's a little bit of a time lag before they get down there. So it's a very realistic combat system. But you always have the option to like leave your second in command in charge, and you can go down and join the fray, and then it becomes more of a God of War, just like brawling thing where you're fighting your way through the hordes of Englishmen with your knights at your back. So maybe a Dynasty Warriors kind of game at that point. But at any point, like you can retreat back up and take a command position, or you can be go down to the front lines, because oftentimes Joan would fight like along the front line. Sometimes she'd be in the back, so you could go either way. We're still very historical here, but it's combining two really fun genres of like beat 'em up and real time strategy. And then the game ends with a sad ending, because eventually you get captured by the British, or by the Burgundians actually, who were the French collaborators with the British, who sell you to the British. And then they put you on trial. And the really cool thing about the trial is they hit her with like 70 counts of all kinds of things, like witchcraft, like all sorts of things. But it was a religious court, and she was able to answer the trial so perfectly that they couldn't make anything stick to her for a long time. They kept having to retry her and keep trying new things. And so finally, the only thing they could get her to stick was dressing as a man. Like that was the one thing, and that was because she had tied her soldier clothes on her with like extra cords so they couldn't rape and molest her while she was in prison. So they're like, oh well, you're wearing man clothes, so that's what we're gonna hit you with. So the last part of the game, Phoenix Wright, you're doing a trial now, and you're trying to be your own defense attorney.
Okay.
And then you die, and it's kind of sad ending, and that's gonna really make people mad. But historical.
I wonder how that would work. Sewing in a bunch of different ways to play the game like that. That's either like the future of video gaming, or that's going to go nowhere and your game's going to be shit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the future of video gaming.
Because I kind of like, it almost like it's like Mario Party, where you play a game. There is a satisfaction in like mastering a system pretty quickly and then moving on to the next one and then trying to master that. But I wonder if it's...
And I definitely include RPG elements into it. So you have different skill trees depending on where you are in the game, like farming skill trees, like your turnips get a bigger bumper crop, and your sheep, you can have more sheep that listen to you when you call.
And if your clothes are better as a male, and so you get a better deception skill.
You can pass as a man easier. Or there'll be like the classic combat skills that you can pick up, like, bows and swords and shields and different tech trees, backflips.
Ninja stars.
Yeah, ninja stars. Keep it historical. So ninja stars for sure.
Very appropriate.
But yeah, there was a Joan of Arc game in 2004 that was basically just you just kind of fought. You were just Joan of Arc, and you just run around fighting things. So it's just a big like mass combat like fight game. It's like that game that we played where it was like that co-op, easily forgettable game where we were both a couple knights, like Crusaders.
Oh yeah, it's called like Knights of Two or something stupid like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I forget what it was called.
It was really lame.
But looking at the trailer for the 2004 Joan of Arc game, that's kind of what it looks like, except without the co-op. So, final element for my game, co-op, because she had sub-commanders, and one of them ended up being a serial killer, so I think he'd be a fun character to include. Gilles de Rais.
Oh. I can't find it, man, but I was hoping to find that before you finished your diatribe there. Nope, I don't see it. Okay, unfortunate. Yeah. So Joan of Arc, I guess that'd be pretty cool. I mean, you get your swords and not so much sorcery.
Yeah, no, it's like a
cross-dressing. It's always fun. Press X.
Very few cross-dressing characters in games. There's Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, and now there's Joan of Arc. I don't know. I think it'd be fun to have. The First Templar was the name of the game we played.
Yes. So bad.
I think it'd be fun to have a game that's like both historically accurate, but also like it's one of those stories that's so weird that it needs to be a movie, because it's just like how'd that happen in history? Like how in the 1400s they give a 17-year-old girl command of like these huge French armies? Be like, oh well, go for it. If you had a vision, then you had a vision. We can't argue with that. And like the Dauphin Charles was like super skeptical of that too. Like he never quite believed that she was like called by any sort of divine authorities, so he just would never give her any backup. So you're just always this underdog with no like reinforcements coming to save you, and just doing what you can with a little 2-player co-op. You and Gilles de Rais or whoever else is on your team, just fighting your way to the British.
It's like the historical Die Hard. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
Send me back up in here.
So yeah, that would be that's the first game I came up with when I was thinking about Joan of Arc, as I often do.
Oh yeah, were you in the shower?
I was. That's where all the good ideas happen.
Cross-dressing is so good.
Oh,
Yeah, that would be good. I was trying to think of games like that. Did you ever play? I think it was called the 100-Year War.
no.
Kind of like,
That makes sense because this takes place during the 100 Years' War.
yeah, kind of like Hyrule Warriors or
Dynasty Warriors?
Dynasty Wars. I'm thinking like Daikatsu. I feel like there's a Japanese name for one of those too. But that whole genre of games, it was similar to that, but it had RPG elements as well, and I kind of enjoyed it. Plus, the setting makes more sense to me because it'll be like, oh, feudal Japan and the Jim Jammy Jam versus Skim Scammy Scam, and I'm like, I don't. Okay, is there some historical significance to this? But in this one, it's like, oh, defend, whatever. You can be either side, but of course I was the French, and it was like, oh, defend Nice or something. And I'm like, I know where Nice is. I sure will defend Nice. These
Right.
fucks. And they were coming across the water and like just kept pouring in, and like eventually you want to stop that, but that's just this. Oh yeah, it was cool.
Yeah,
Super
just
fun.
having I like the historical background because it's a setting that people can instantly relate to because most of us have at least a vague knowledge of like real places in France.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Pretty much, it bugs me when people talk about France being like bitches and running from wars. Because, like, we never had a 100-year war. Like,
Right.
we lost.
I know, we
like,
get really
six
pouty
years.
after like 10 years in Iraq.
Yeah. And which war was it? It might have been the 100-Year War. Maybe it was the Crusades. I can't remember. But there was one where they wiped out a whole generation of breeders. And they were like, oh, shit, so kids now? Or something like that. I can't remember. Wasn't it
Yeah,
France? I think it was
After,
France.
after World War One, they call it the lost generation. There was a whole generation that just disappeared, and it was like World War Two happened, and that's where that
Yeah.
like the French are bad at war thing came from is World War Two. It's like they lost all their dudes like a couple years earlier. Like it's gonna happen. Like when you lose an entire generation,
Funny.
you're gonna have 6 months at best of people.
Anytime you're like okay, so imagine Sparta, right? Sparta was like kind of it's in a spot where it could face either Grecians or it could come from the other side. Is that right? Is it Spartans? Now I need to remember. I remember from hardcore history. Maybe it was I think it was Sparta. Anyway, there's somewhere around there. There's this kind of like Eastern Europe area where they can face it from both sides. But the cool part is they're in a landscape where they can defend themselves. But there are those also, like he was talking about China, Dan Carlin of Hardcore History Podcast. He was talking about there's places in China that get it from both sides, but they have no landscape, and they just get wrecked in history over and over and over again because they're the highway of manifest destiny, in China. And the same thing with like Europe. France is stuck right in the middle.
Being Germany's neighbor for 3,000 years.
Yes, Germany, Spain, and England. You're gonna get your shit kicked
And
in.
Italy.
And the thing is, they didn't get their shit kicked in. They were like under King Philippe the Second. I think the second was that when they were in the Crusades and they were like the badass cavalry people.
And through most of the Middle Ages, they had the best cavalry. Napoleon almost conquered the whole, like all the known world. He basically all the rest of Europe had to team up and stop him. He was like Alexander the Great. So like this whole France is bad at war. Like, do you know why we have a Statue of Liberty? Do you know why we have a country? Do you know who Lafayette is? Shut the fuck up with that.
Yeah, it's only been in the past, and that's only because, damn, it's almost for some reason we get it. Like, you watch these movies of like old Clint Eastwood, and he's like, I'm just a grizzled old war veteran, leave me alone. And we get that, but we don't get it when it comes in the form of a country where we're like, we've been not getting our ass kicked. We've been kicking ass for hundreds and hundreds.
We just seen so much war. We're
Yeah,
done with war. And we're like, shut up, pussies. Yeah, that's where it started. That was in 2002 with fucking the Iraq War when they're like, hey guys, maybe you should not be invading that country. It did not attack you. It is maybe Afghanistan you should be facing. And we're like, shut up, pussies. Freedom fries. You hate war.
Yes, little bitches. But meanwhile, we were like, hey, can we borrow
That
a
worked
foreign
out super
legion
well.
for some covert ops? You guys are badass. No, but I understand the sentiment, but if you have any historical perspective, there's no reason to believe that. But anyway, diatribe. However,
but relevant because this is one more war where France should not have won, but they pulled it out anyway and won.
Yeah, and hopefully the awareness will turn up. But like you get these shows like the Tudors,
Mm-hmm. 2 doors down.
Yeah, 2 doors down. And then it shows like how England was like kind of tiptoeing around France because they don't want to piss them off because they're this giant superpower in medieval times.
Yeah, I just read a Washington biography, and like half the biography was about like we don't want to piss France off, but we're very concerned about how their revolution's going, but we don't want to say anything because they're super powerful and they're our only ally.
Yeah. Yeah. What can you do? But perfect game.
All right,
So I
so
like
tell me your dream game.
so feedback on yours. I
Okay.
think it's a little confused, but I like that. I think it's bold. And if we did that, because there's all those different kinds,
Mm.
but I kind of like that. It's almost like seasons in Stardew Valley. There's things that I don't know. There's a lot of continuity, but also it's fun to start with all new crops and then go, okay, like you cash in at the end of the last mode basically to stack
Yeah.
your chips for the next mode, and then you get people like Dragon Age Inquisition, which has different ways to do it. They have their little, their balls that you do, those epic huge balls that you get to play with. And you get those, and then you also have the dances. No, I'm kidding. No, the balls are the dances.
Like putting in social elements into a strategy game. Like you could even put logistics in. Like if you're interested, if you're more interested in like planning supply routes and stuff, you could focus on that. But if you want to delegate that to the AI and have your like sub commanders do that, you can just fight. So
I thought that was
that you want to play.
I thought that was pretty cool. Like how you get to go to the campaign map and you go on those different missions that actually affect your overall campaign.
Mm.
That was fun. So I think it's bold and ambitious, but I like it. I like it.
Yeah, there's no shortage of missions you can do. They're all based off of battles in the 100 Years' War, so you could easily fill up a campaign. That like the bulk of it would be the war part, like the farming and the trial would be little bookends on the end. The bulk of it would be either like commander from the top or just fighting your way through a Dynasty Warrior style.
And then the political intrigue, but also like the fact that there's this B plot going on the whole time of like you have to hide your gender, and that can come up in a lot of
a little bit of
ways.
Mulan. So I like killing things, cooking outdoors.
Yeah. Okay. My favorite. I've got a couple different ideas. Okay. I know you're gonna like one of them, and the other ones you're probably gonna shit on. No, I don't know what you're gonna think about the other ones, but I know you'll like one of them. Okay. So first of all, I think what would be really cool is first I'll start with the one that's not too cerebral. I don't know how this hasn't been done. I'm gonna say it one more time. I won't. You get the idea. There's a game. There should be a game where it's a zombie apocalypse, right?
Okay.
And a lot of these have happened, right?
Fresh, new. I like it so far.
I know. No, that's the thing. It's like whenever you see someone, it's like this. I was watching a guy stream one day, and a long time ago, and he's playing this game, and he's looking for something in a house, and he keeps walking around the house and looking all the rooms. He's like, I just can't find it, and it's right there in front of his fucking face. And I was like, dude, it's on the cabinet. And like I became, normally it's just up somewhere while I'm doing dishes or something, but I was like staring at the TV going, God damn it, it's on the cabinet. So I even chatted. I was like, God damn it, it's on the cabinet. And then the guy just keeps walking around. I was like, dude, he's like walking around. He's opened the drawer underneath it. I was like, it's on the fucking cabinet. That's how I feel about this zombie apocalypse thing. I'm like, dude, what? How do you miss this? Okay, so you got your early apocalypse things, right? Where like think of Walking Dead, the Telltale game series or the show. You see your first outbreak, you're there for patient zero, and then you negotiate where there's a lot of things that happen there and challenges that you don't have to worry about later, right? Like bullets, like rounds, for example, for rounds. You get plenty of weapons, you find plenty of survivors, it's all about, seeing people have these breaks with reality. You don't have that overall depressing dystopia idea yet. You still have some, bastions of possibility. It's all about potentiality, right? Where someone's going to go, and it's always interesting to see them develop psychologically and also socially. Like, what is society's going to look like? It's people trying to figure things out, and either being naive or jumping far too into the role. Those sorts of things are interesting. Then you get the late stage apocalypse people, where it's more like The Road with Viggo Mortensen, the show. There's no zombies in there, but it's basically dystopia, and it's
The Last of Us, like 30 years into the zombie apocalypse,
and it feels more like Fallout 4. Not the scrounging is the more of the highlight. You know what I mean? And so it's like finding, like in The Road, Viggo Mortensen finds this Coke. It's possibly the last Coke in the United States, if not the world. And he's like, oh my gosh! And he has this moment where he's, that's like late stage. What they don't seem to understand is there's a part in the first stage that's really cool that they haven't addressed yet. We see a lot of average fucking Joes in the first part. Why don't we get to play like the world's badasses, like the hostage response team, HRT, which is part of the FBI? Why don't we get to see like be a SWAT team going through and like clearing out your first building, and you're caught, and what you're doing is it's almost like like a resource management kind of thing, where you're putting out fires as fast as you can. You're a response team, and like you're in the first patient zero thing. It's up to you to stop this, right? So you've got a campaign map of a city, you've got your response teams, and you get to make it's almost like XCOM 2. You build a team, and you send them to these places, and you're trying to put out fires as fast as you can, and you're building defenses, and you're making meaningful mayoral decisions. You put the place on military lockdown, but then people bitch about it, and they start rioting and some shit. Like stuff that you'd really have to deal with. That's annoying. You're like, God damn it, you pieces of shit! I'm trying to kill zombies.
It'll be like playing Democracy. You ever play like that video game?
Yeah. But also,
like, every decision you make pisses people off.
Yeah, like that, and also like XCOM 2 as well. Like you also get to play a campaign map. Well, XCOM 2, not the tactical. You can do a tactical. Maybe that would be fun. Like maybe a larger scale battle you would do tactically. But I also want to do the first person shooter style of like sort of a Mass Effect idea, but with badasses. Because right now you get the Rick Grimes pointing his pistol to the ground, and you're like, what are you doing, bro? And they make questionable decisions, and that's fun. But it's all been done. We haven't seen the tip top badass of humanity try to fight this thing. And you're in charge. You have to do whatever you can. You're the commander, kind of like XCOM is what I'm saying. And I think though, and with full customizability, and then an overall plot. Like for example, you also have to be. So you got FEMA, right? The Federal Emergency and Medical Act for FEMA. It's the response team to natural disasters or to typically natural disasters. And so they give you an allotment of money, and then you have to earn more money by actually making progress because they're ready to like just shut down the town. You know what I mean? Like nuke it or something. Some big ultimatum. And so you're worrying about finances. You're worrying about a political revolt. You're worrying about hostage rescue missions. You're worrying about wipeout missions. And then you're worrying about like maybe political outflow. Maybe somebody's like, oh, hey, can we borrow your top 5 people? We think we have a patient zero in Europe, and you have to be like, God damn it. So you have to make meaningful decisions of who you're going to pull out of your, group. And if you fail that mission, maybe, Europe is gone and some of your funding gets cut or whatever. You know what I mean? Like real tough decisions. That would be fucking awesome. But no, they haven't done that. It's always some fucking like cheerleader girl with a machete, and she has to like make her way out of a high school, which is fun. But it's been done. Or it's like, oh, you're Joe Mechanic, Mr. Mechanic Boy, like in Dead State or like a ton of games, or Decaying State, or State of Decay, sorry. Yeah. Or games like that, you're just a nobody, or Dead Rising, or
I think it's because I think the reason they never do that is because like from a logistical perspective, Patient Zero, like if you catch the zombies early enough and you have badasses on hand, like it just seems really strange that it would have gotten out of control.
Maybe, but you can always. The cool thing about zombies is you can always alter it and say it's airborne or whatever. But the point is that's not really true. If you follow the past history of the Zika virus, they had like one Patient Zero, and they knew who it was. Basically, it was this girl named Mary or something like that. She's like a 10-year-old, and they're like, "Oh, well, isolate her." And then they isolated everyone in the village.
The virus was making you come back to life and eat someone instead of making poor people's babies have small heads. Yeah. They would have definitely like put more austere measures, like headshot on the first guy infected who walks by. Like zombies are like the only reason they're scary is because we get to it after the government's already lost control of the situation, and now it's like, well, now we can't stop it. But let's say you have 20 infected people, like good luck. Good luck for the zombies. They're going to get mowed down by the elite special forces that we're playing as.
Well, what you're saying is almost tautological. You can get around it just by saying, all right, fine, then I adjust that. Because if you're like, okay, well, 20 wouldn't be interesting, I'd be like, all right, then 50. And you're like, that's too small. And then I'm like, 6,000. And you're like, okay, maybe. Or I could just be like, all right, fine, then it's an airborne virus, and we have to take care of it that way. And then that would be fun, too, strategically, because we would manipulate like, okay, look, we've got to have air vents here. You have to put money into preventative measures as well as your military. It'd just be fun, It's almost like a total war where you have to decide, am I going diplomacy, military, half and half, or what am I doing here, It'd be make meaningful decisions. I think it'd be fun, R&D for like a retrovirus, something like that.
I would like to see a zombie game, and maybe you could incorporate this in, that doesn't like zombie games most zombie games will have every zombie kind of scripted. Like you walk by, the zombie's going to break through the window when you get to that part of the hall, or there's going to be 4 zombies in the corner here. I would like to just see massive amounts of zombies. So maybe this is late in the game when you've lost control, because I think one thing that makes zombie apocalypses fun is that even the elites, like you're fighting a losing battle and losing ground the whole time. So maybe at some point when there's just a ton of zombies, have them, instead of acting in pre-programmed ways, just have them program. How hard would it be to program zombies to act like zombies, which is basically go after what you see moving, go after sound. And so then you'd have natural herds forming, as like, they'll clump up sometimes. They'll see another zombie, like, what's going on? They'll start walking in the same direction. Like, remember when we were playing H1Z1 or DayZ, and they just have a bunch of randomly generated zombies, but they never really they weren't attracted to noise. They were just kind of wandering around randomly on the map for whatever reason. So you never had to worry about like whether your gun made too much noise or, you know, shouting, putting on your police siren. I would love to have a game where the zombies just, you could manipulate them if you're smarter than them. Like you can drive a police car with a siren on, try and like get most of them out of the city so you can go and evacuate the survivors.
Yeah.
Stuff like that where you don't rely on programming for the zombies, but you just give them a basic set of commands and they just act in that way.
Well, I think it's interesting you say that. I think there's a new game I've been kind of researching, and I've been watching people play the alpha and stuff. And I think that would be really applicable here. It's a game that manipulates really super advanced AI, and it's called Hello Neighbor. Have you heard about it?
No.
Okay, so you're this neighbor, right? And you just pop up in the game, and you've got a house, right? But nothing's interesting in your house, and if you try to walk a certain place, there's even invisible walls. It's clearly an incentive to go. Plus, the point of the game is to find out what your neighbor's doing. And your neighbor's this guy who's, by everything you can tell just by looking at the front of his house, normal. But if you start walking around the sides of the house, there's a room that's everything's bolted on the ceiling, which is already weird. And there's another one that has a red light on and a bunch of furniture packed up or whatever. I'm just giving you examples of things that can happen because a lot of it's procedurally generated. And so you're like, but if you break the window, he'll come running either out the front door or through his house. Those are two options that he can do. If one does not catch you, he's more likely to do the other one the next time. Plus, it memorizes where you go through the house. If you always go up, or if not always, once you go up the right side one time and you successfully get away through the right side again, he'll put a bear trap down. Also, like and if you run to the house around the house once and you juke him because he's chasing you, he'll cut you off next time. He's going to assume you're going a certain way, so you can actually start running and then turn around and run. It's almost like playing a real person. It's creepy because I watched someone play it and like he was like, oh man, so. The next time I'm going to get the hammer, I'm going to pull off the boards of the window he wants me into, and then I'm going to break open the window because that's the best way to enter the house. So as soon as he starts breaking the boards, he goes up to break the boards, and there's a bear trap there, and he's like, oh my God. And it was just interesting. And then he always jumps this one thing, and when he jumped that, it set off an alarm, and then it's cool because it's never the same. So it is very fucking intense and kind of, it's called a horror game, and it's not, I was like, horror, no way. But once you like put yourself in the shoes of the player, it really is terrifying.
Right.
You can make zombies with an advanced AI similar to that. Like,
it wouldn't even need to be near that advanced, right? You would just need it'd be like 3 lines. Like you go towards movement, you go towards sound. You prefer to eat humans over deer.
But I do like the uncertainty too, like because that happens in a lot of shows and games and stuff. It's like they expect something to happen, they put off fireworks or something, and they turn around and start running off. But then the zombies come to them, and they're like, "Oh man, I must smell like human," or so. Then they figure out something new or whatever, or maybe it was just random. You're just like, it didn't go wrong. So that'd be cool if it wasn't, because horror loses its scariness as soon as it's predictable. So I would want to end a little bit of predictability.
Right, maybe some mutations, some aberrant zombies that don't play by the rules.
Yeah, you gotta have those. So that's an idea. I think that would be really fun. The second one is okay, so I found this online, so this isn't my idea, but I saw someone mention it, and I was like, that seems like a good idea. It was in a forum, but they were saying a game that's a horror game. Horror games typically manipulate one thing. It's you being alone and outgunned or out whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's necessary for horror. But what if you did a 2-person horror game, like meant to scare you, and it actually manipulated that? And like, so what it does is, as you're going through the game, you get split up from your person. If you get split up, let's say a door slams down, like they actively try to get you to split up or whatever, and then there's a communication within the game that, like, let's say your mic only has so many batteries or something like that, and so you can only use it so often to talk to your mate, wouldn't that be cool? You're like, okay, well, I'm in this house doing this. And they're like, okay. I think there's someone in the next room. And you're like, oh my God. Wouldn't that be awesome? And like,
yeah, it would if we could get people not to cheat, right? Because we just put our headsets in and like chat through it. So you have to, it almost be like the honor system, I guess, because there's no way to control for that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, I mean, if you did it like online, like if you and I played, we'd probably have, a voice client up talking in the background. But if you made it just for, co-op, whatever, and voice, I don't know, because then you get a bunch of internet denizens which aren't known for their patience or like.
Yeah, we just have to agree going in. Like, you click OK on this box that says, "Yeah, you could definitely fucking cheat, but it won't be a fun game." So.
Or you could even you could even just allow communication, because I was thinking, okay, take all that away, a couch co-op game, like that would be the most hacks version of communication because you could just talk to each other. So if it can work there, it can work in an online environment. And so I thought it'd still be interesting if I was going to do something and then you were like, oh shit, I'm in a basement. You're like, I just opened up, it's a car basement. And then I'd be like, oh shit. And I'd look at your screen, you know, and I'd be interested in what you're doing still. I'd be scared for you because I'm like, David, you got to make it through this, you know, and then you'd be like,
Right.
I don't know what to do. And then I'm like, dude, I think there's some batteries and there was a room back here. Maybe I can roll them under a door. Like have them some mechanic where we can help each other. And we do meet back up, but then we have to also, you know, do things like that.
Separating it.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it mechanically or gameplay wise because it could get hokey if it keeps splitting you up. But you get the idea. I think that would be interesting.
Or just things I do can, like, maybe I'm trapped in the attic and you're trapped in the basement, and things like I can restore power to a room you're in,
Yeah,
unlock a door, so like we can help each other get through things that way. Maybe there's a dumb waiter that you can like send a flashlight up for me by manually pulling on the chain.
Yeah, that'd be really cool because those kind of games is something they kind of unlocked maybe like 10 years ago. Was these cooperative games?
Yeah, that's what makes Zelda Hyrule Warriors so fun. It's just like you and two of your friends, and you're just helping each other through the temple or the dungeon at the same time.
And it's what makes like MOBAs fun too. For example, you're like, I'm gonna clear top real quick. You go ahead and grab that thing. You know, it's co-op, it's cooperative, and you're making these like strategic decisions. So yeah, maybe it's like because it's fun. Like if you're doing like a zombie like defense map or something, or any kind of like holdout standout map, you know, or standoff map. You know, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go board up the walls, and I'm like, great, I'm gonna push furniture like that. I'm trying to capture that inside of like inside of a new and fresh setting. So when somebody was just like, oh, I'm just shooting this from the hip, but what if it's, you know, like what if you use co-op inside of horror? Could that work? And I was like, and a lot of people like, no. Other people like, yes. But I was like, I don't know. I think sure there's nuance there. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool idea. That's never been done.
So the other ideas I had are both just games that have been tried before. Like they're games based on licenses that they just fucking wasted the license on. So one of them, there was a Batman Beyond game on the N64, the GameCube, like in that kind of era. And Batman Beyond, that game sucked. It was a terrible game. But the concept is cool because all Batman Beyond is Batman with more high-tech gadgets. So if you could do like an Arkham-style game where you can fly and like cloak and just have like cool futuristic version of Batman, like a futuristic Batman Arkham City, set like 100 years in the future or whatever, that would be a really fun game. You can incorporate the tech of Batman Beyond into the gameplay of a Batman Arkham game.
Yeah.
And then the other property that I've seen fucked up.
Oh, sorry, I was going to comment on that. Arkham Knight, you can get a Batman Beyond skin, and it's essentially because I have my reservations. I was like, oh, you can fly and stuff. Wait a minute, Batman Arkham Knight can fly too, you know, or glide. And you can actually get a skin where you're basically Terry McGinnis.
Yeah, but instead of gliding, you've got jets on your feet, and you can gain altitude that way. And you can like cling to the wall like Spider-Man, and then just like hit a button and you cloak, and you become invisible when they're walking by. Or you can put your fingers on the door and like hear what's going on inside. So a lot of it's just small cosmetic upgrades. Like it's not hugely different because in Batman he's already kind of cutting edge.
Yeah, right.
But there was enough about the show that made Terry McGinnis' Batman different than Batman from the animated series. I think it would make the gameplay different enough to be worth exploring.
Yeah.
Plus, you would have on your comm, you'd have old man Batman like helping you like through the missions and stuff. Like ahead of you, you're gonna see a warehouse. You need to infiltrate that. The top window is your best point of entry. So you get like this brilliant Bruce Wayne tactician like walking you through missions instead of Alfred or whatever. It'd be fun.
Yeah. I'm trying to poke holes in it, but it's pretty solid. If you did just like a Rocksteady the way that they're doing the game, it's hard to go wrong because you already have things like the Batarang that you can throw and it circles around a building, you know, and you can look inside and stuff. So being able to fly wouldn't be that breaking because even in the game, if you touch the ground on accident in Batman Arkham Knight, you're an idiot because you have so many ways. You can literally just smash the R1 button or R2 button, I think. R1? I think it's R1. You know, your grappling hook, you can just slam that button and you're going to eventually fly back up into the air.
Right. And you can do those little dives to give you extra altitude when you're gliding.
Yeah, exactly.
But instead of an awkward Batmobile flying around, you get like a flying Batmobile. So you just get like a jet that can take you around the city.
Yeah. Yeah, you can make it work. Because then you can have people with like rocket emplacements on top of buildings to limit your mobility inside the jet. Yeah, that's a whole quest. Yeah,
and then, plus you have like cool like a new rogues gallery that we haven't really explored a lot because there's a lot of new villains in Batman
Like the
Beyond.
Joker.
Yes, the Return of the Joker, the famous Batman Beyond exclusive villain. No, but also there's like one where the suit gets infected by like an evil AI, and he has to fight the suit outside of the suit. So just like lots of little interesting things like that kind of turn on its head. But yeah, that would be one. Another property that I've seen people try and make games out of, and I don't know how you fuck this up, is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay, wait.
You haven't seen the show all the way through, but you started it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Part of season 1. So the whole world of Avatar is this really interesting world they've created. But the premise is you are the one person capable of bending any element, and you're learning how to master each one. So you start off only being able to bend air, and then you learn water bending, and then earth bending, and then fire bending. So as you're doing that, like it's a kung fu game at its heart. So it's just the fighting system is where you'd focus most of your energy, but it's fighting with like, remember like how in Guild Wars when you shoot an arrow through fire and it becomes a fire arrow.
Yeah.
So it's about like combining environmental effects to do cooler things, because as the Avatar, you could send like you can airbend up into the sky and then bring up a pillar of earth beneath you to like land on. Like you can combine the elements in interesting ways, but it's incrementally growing. So you're not having to master all these different systems at once. You just master air in the first like fourth of the game, and then once you get airbending on your belt, you start to like mix water bending into it, and you master water bending. You can blend those two styles together. So as the game's natural progression, you end up mastering all 4 elements at the same time that your character does, as you start to learn how to like incorporate different fighting styles into your repertoire. So it'd be kind of an interesting, like if you could nail the combat system on that, it would be super fun, because those fight scenes are great. Just seeing him like get creative with like the different ways you can combine different techniques.
So I think the strength of that would be the narrative is already written. I mean, and it's interesting, and it lends itself to an RPG style. Like gaining your powers and whatnot. I think the difficult part would be making the fighting system novel and also fun instead of button mashing.
Yeah.
Because like fire seems like it would be like, okay, once I got that, I broke the game. Or it's like, oh, then I was thinking, well, maybe you could like just do combos. Like in Guild Wars 2, the Elementalists, you have all the different elements, and you have 4 spells in each element. And how you
twist them together,
string them, it totally. If there's a big like bullet sponge basically, or a hit point sponge, like a huge, massive turtle or something, then I'm like, okay, here's how I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put a bunch of dots on it while I keep slowing it and cripple it, like break its legs, and then make it bleed out. And then I do all these different things. I wouldn't just nuke it because it'd kill me by the time it got to me. But
it would also depend on the environments a lot, like where you have your fights, like different arenas, different stages for different combats. Like if you're fighting on an island, you have a lot of water to work with that you won't have in like a volcano. So like you'd favor whichever element would be most useful in that area.
How would the game incentivize you to favor that?
Well, like for example, waterbenders can't just create water. They have to carry pouches of water with them. So you'd have like a limited resource of water to use. But if there was rain, suddenly like water becomes an unlimited resource. You could really rely on that more. You could send ice shards down, or you have a lot more energy. If you were in like a desert, suddenly your earth bending is like shit because you're just around sand all the time. So you might switch more into air bending at that point. So the game would kind of force you to like favor certain kinds over others depending on where you were fighting.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Got built-in co-op because you've got the companions, right? So someone could play Toph, who's just like this badass little earthbender, and someone could play Anara or whoever the waterbender was. So, but you could have, there's room for like a second player, because I think every game is better when you can have someone playing it with you.
Definitely. I was actually thinking of making that game solely co-op, because you were mentioning that thing in Guild Wars, which is really fun, which is, like if I as a defender do my, like, I don't remember if this was one of them actually, but okay, I'll use the water arrows one for example. Like if you throw like a geyser up and then I shoot an arrow through it, it'll hit, and whoever it hits, if there's a warrior nearby, he'll get healed. So that's pretty cool. And I think the collection, like stringing together combos, if you're smart about it, is really fun. PvP, it's difficult to do, but PvE, it was not so difficult to do. Right. PvP gets chaotic as fuck, and you're just like, hey, use your range. You're like, I already used it to save that one dude. So it's more difficult to plan. But yeah, with waterbending stuff, that could be super fun. Like if someone's behind a shield and they're a fire person, and you're like, I can't get to my water. Then I'm like, oh, well, I'll throw like a huge boulder, and then you surround it with water, and then smash the shield, and it sprays all over them. Something like that.
Yeah.
Like you could make all these cool combos that the characters would have to do together.
Mm-hmm.
That would be really fun. But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that one would be hard to do because the combat system needs to be complex but simple, like Smash Brothers, right? Where there's a lot of complexity to it, but it's easy to pick up. It'd be easy to make it overly complex and end up being like a like Injustice: Gods Among Us or something, or one of those games where you have to memorize a lot of crazy combos and button combinations to be effective. You'd want it to be simple to pick up but complex to master. That way the target audience, which would be kids, could play it, but also adults who enjoy the show would get some meat out of it too.
Huh, yeah. Very cool, yeah. I had one more idea too. This one is kind of... So I had thought of this, but apparently this is done better by Blizzard. They said this thing called Project Titan. Did you hear about what it was supposed to be?
No, just a big MMO.
This is a legend amongst gamers, like especially old school PC gamers, because Blizzard always had this thing. It kept getting leaked in like financial documents. There's this thing they kept dumping money into year after year after year. A new IP, and they only had 3 for decades. Warcraft, Starcraft, Diablo. And there's this new IP that was called codenamed Titan, Titan. And everybody's just like, what the fuck is that? And Blizzard's like, we don't have any things like that. It was almost like the CIA when you're like, Area 51, we have evidence right here. Here's a picture from Google Maps. And they're like, doesn't exist. And you're like, it does. Clearly does. No. Yeah. And so they were like, they're like, yeah, we're not having any. Nobody's working on that. It's no big deal. But then some leaked kind of deadlines. It was like basically like a Excel sheet almost of deadlines and IPs and then when they're going to come out. And there was one that was supposed to come out and it said Titan. So it had a project ship date. And it's like, well, shit. Yes, you're clearly working on it. Ghost, StarCraft Ghost, when they said they nixed that, it seemed to be true because it was on the thing but had no end date. So it was like, well, here's all our projects. This one does have an end date. Ghost doesn't, which is actually hacked or got the hatchet. What's going on? But what they said is essentially they used all the assets to make Overwatch. And what it was this idea that, so imagine Overwatch, how that happens, but you also live your life as a citizen. And I thought that was intriguing because I've always, whenever I played, Batman, this Telltale game series that I just played, I'm not going to spoil it, but it says right there in the trailer, you play Batman and Bruce Wayne, which is interesting as fuck already. And you have to make decisions sometimes. Like, oh, I've got this problem. Let's say, I'm not going to use a real example. Let's say the Scarecrow is using the local crime boss to, peddle his wares, right? So you could go in as Batman and be like, bitch, I'm gonna kill you, right? Or you could go in as maybe it's Bruce Wayne and convince him somehow with money or with your influence or throw a ball and invite him or something, whatever. So you can make a decision on how you're going to tackle that, which it was super interesting in the Telltale game series. I was like, oh, how do I want to tackle this? It wasn't the crime boss one, it was something different. But I was like, you're right, I can see the advantage. And that's something that Bruce Wayne would have to decide, or Batman, really. He doesn't consider himself Bruce Wayne. Batman would have to decide that. He'd be like, which persona do I want to use? It's so interesting. And so in this game, Titan, it was about you living a regular life. And then you actually had a job. Like in a lot of MMOs, this isn't a far-fetched, because in a lot of MMORPGs, you do have a profession or multiple professions that you do make money.
I'm a tailor. I'm a cook.
Yeah, and you do spend a significant amount of money. And what's funny is I think it was, what was the MMO? Was it Guild Wars? Where you could have a store owner, or you could have a store front. Some MMORPG we played for not too long, but I remember it was like, oh, in-game, you can have your own storefront in some cities. And I was like, okay, you can sell your own shit. That's pretty cool. But anyway, so essentially you have a job, and that's an in-game. Plus, you look at things like EVE Online, that's essentially a job simulator with a little bit of fighting, right? And so an economy simulator. So it could work. And then what would happen was you'd get, if you were part of this Overwatch or people or the bad guys, I don't remember what they were called, but whatever it was, if you're a supervillain or a super bad guy, you would get literally just like Batman or something, just like, wah, wah, oh, Joker's fucking doing Joker shit. And then you're like, oh no. And you have to decide, I need to get out of here. And how do I do that without raising suspicion? And then you go and fight it. So you get, then you're flying on the rooftops, and it's a whole different game. And yeah, it just seemed, but that idea was something obviously every kid has thought of. I don't think I'm a genius or anything. And obviously Blizzard had thought of it. Maybe multiple of them had thought of it. But I just thought that would be really cool. And then the fact that Telltale Games, Batman, this last one, utilized the idea that that's something I never thought of. Is even in the Spider-Man comics, I don't think he explicitly had this because he had no powers. Peter Parker, he was always like, oh, I got to solve this problem. Oh, okay, I'm going as Spider-Man. But in this one, it's like, wait, I really could solve this problem as a civilian. Yeah, let me think about that. Maybe I want to do that. So I don't know. It's an interesting look at something that we don't get, which is decision making on whether to put on the cape or the cowl. I think that's cool.
Yeah, one of Batman's superpowers is all the money, and that's a power that works when he's not in disguise. So it kind of gives him more options in the civilian mode.
Yeah, like you can spend your time making political. Like imagine a Lex Luthor character where they didn't spend much of their money and time and effort in the game or whatever the resource is into becoming a super villain, so much as they did becoming this political and billionaire, like a powerhouse.
Once you become president, then you can work on building your power armor and your supervillain stuff on the side.
Right. Yeah. So I think a lot of that's pretty cool. You could also get intrigued and like maybe get outlaw or make it get a curfew on superheroes in your city, something like that. That would be cool. You know, if you're a supervillain, then you're like, great, now I can start my operations from 10 to 4 or whatever it is. You know, because if you're like, we don't want anyone out at night punching people at dark, even the good guys. Like, I don't know. I just think that opens up a lot of cool avenues of things. Because I thought to myself, like, what if I was a superhero? What's the fun parts of it? You know, and obviously the flying parts, they've got that all settled. We've played millions of those games, but hundreds of those games. But yeah, the not only the civilian side, but then the decision-making process in the middle will be really fun. And then what do you spend your days on? Then you've got, like, rest, you know, or some kind of mechanic like that, you know, I don't know. Just, like, juggling that whole lifestyle would be a blast.
Yeah, just trying to – because that's a major tension in superhero stories is, like, making your secret identity not fall apart under the duties of your superhero identity. So, like, even if you were just playing a Spider-Man character and, like, you have a calculus test coming up, and then Dr. Octopus attacks the city in the middle of your calc test. And you got to figure out, like, oh, do I need to pass this class, or can I sneak out and get back without anyone noticing me?
Yeah.
And also, freaking Gwen Stacy's been flirting with me, so I got to invite her to the dance. But Mary Jane, so do I go with her? And, like, all the high school drama bullshit that you have to juggle, too.
It would be a lot like State of Decay in that way, where it was a lot about managing the crises, you know, because it was like, oh, so-and-so's over here, and they're stuck in a warehouse and they're surrounded by zombies, and you're like, fuck, I can't lose that guy. I want to go. But then as you're driving out, someone's like, oh, there's a new survivor, and a survivor's like currency when you're trying to build a community. So you're like, oh man, I want to get that person. And you had to make meaningful decisions that way. It was difficult. And then it was like, oh, but your people have no ammunition. They're already, having problems defending.
Tell me more about how people are currency in your post-apocalyptic camp.
Ammo and people equivalent.
I'll trade you 3 boxes of bullets for 2 of your survivors. You got a deal, son.
No, but honestly, that is something that you had to consider as you're driving around. You're like, oh shit, I have to. So it'd be cool if you had to do that from a superhero point of view.
Yeah.
Decide, and then it'd obviously be just like in State of Decay, mission critical events where you can't skip. Like if it's like, oh hey, Venom found Gwen Stacy in Starbucks. Then you're like, okay, we can't let her die. Like that's not even a question. So here we go. Or like, the Hobgoblin is headed to Aunt May's house with a bunch of pumpkin bombs. Like that was also in the comic. You've got to be like, oh shit, doesn't matter what I'm doing. We're playing this. We're playing this minigame. Or not minigame. We're fighting that battle.
Yeah, we're doing this
Stuff
event.
Like that. Yeah, that'd be so cool. Oh, yeah, I like that. I think it's awesome.
Nice.
Hasn't been done, or hasn't been done well.
So there's some ideas that could have been in the alternate timeline where we made our video game studio, and we actually were good at what we wanted to do.
Yeah. But we're not, sadly, so I'm going to go write reports on an assessment or something. Yay.
Yay. But let us know if there's a game that you've always wanted to see that's never popped up. Sometimes you find a new game and you're like, wow, how has this never been made? I never would have thought to do this. But sometimes a game gets announced, you're like, yes, of course, this game should exist. Why has it taken this long? Like Attack on Titan demanded a video game the moment we saw the first episode. So when the Attack on Titan game came out, we're like, yes, obviously. Like, remember they were making Flash games about it before the games even launched?
Those are so shitty.
Yeah, they were so shitty. It was such a niche that needed filled. So sometimes they're obvious, sometimes they come out of the blue. But if you guys have ideas that you would like to share, just hop onto the Facebook page, Game Theory Podcast Facebook group, and let us know. Yeah,
that would be great. We can always tweet at us at Game Theory Pod. At Game Theory Pod, because Game Theory Podcast wouldn't fit. So Game Theory Pod, let us know.
Yes, and we did get a little feedback on our Nia Sarkeesian episode. Paul mentioned that it'd be nice to have an actual feminist on there to represent like the feminist point of view, which from academia, not just everyone. There's people that self-identify as feminists, and there's actually academic feminists who publish in that realm. So having one of them on there would be great. I think I'm probably the closest we have in that I studied second wave feminism as part of my master's degree for French literature, but that's by no means my specialty.
Yeah, right. And just by nature, probably better to get a girl or guy, or female.
So once
maybe
again,
we can find them. We'll just grab them by the. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we'll just Trump assault them into being on the show.
It's difficult. That's a good point. We definitely should do that. It's difficult because my problem with sociology is that not all of sociology, but parts of sociology and parts of, honestly, evolutionary psychology, for example, even within my own field, is there's these pockets of unfalsifiable nonsense that you're like, maybe or maybe not, and that's frustrating for me as a scientist, because I'm like, falsifiability is kind of necessary. You have to have that, or else your theory it deserves no discussion at all in the halls of academia. And yet it happens a lot in sociology and with psychodynamic psychology, the old school psychology, or it happens sometimes in feminist literature, because I've gotten into, not all of it, I'm just saying some of it, like I said, pockets. I'm not condemning all of psychology, I'm not condemning all of feminism. I'm just saying there's these pockets that can get frustrating. So we'd have to that makes me nervous, because then I have to hand select who we'd pick. And then I'm afraid that, that would let people down, because they're like, well, you cherry picked this person, and of course they agree with you or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. That's a fair criticism. I don't know. Yeah, it's a minefield. Maybe we can figure it out, though.
Right.
That'd be good.
But it would be ideal just to have another perspective on there who studies this more than we do. And we will be coming back in another couple weeks with another topic. In the meanwhile, I'm David.
Yes, and I'm Jeremiah. Thanks for joining us for another week of the Game Theory Podcast.